The first thing I noticed wasn't the blood. It was the ring. Scratched, dull, military issued. Nothing special at first glance. But the engraving caught my eye. A number. Clean, precise, familiar in a way that made something tighten in my chest, even though I couldn't place it. Not yet. Only then did I really see her. She was lying half-buried in the wreckage of a downed shuttle just outside the ruined outpost on Ardent Ridge. Smoke curled lazily into the gray sky, carrying that burnt metal smell that sticks in your throat. Her armor was torn open, plates peeled back like broken ribs, exposing silver-streaked skin beneath. And the blood, yeah, there was a lot of it. Too much. Alien. Belfry. Enemy. Commander class, if the insignia still clinging to her shoulder meant anything, and it did. My pulse spiked the moment I recognized it. We'd been hunting her for months. Briefings, recon images, whispered rumors about a commander who never lost. And now she was here, dying. Her 4 eyes were closed, her breathing shallow and uneven. One of her hands twitched weakly against the dirt, fingers curling like she was still reaching for a weapon that wasn't there anymore. I should have called it in. That was protocol. Instead, I dropped to my knees beside her. Easy, I muttered, more to myself than to her. My hands were already moving, cutting away what was left of her armor, searching for the worst of the damage. Deep puncture along the side. Internal bleeding, most likely. Shrapnel embedded near the secondary lung. Bad. Real bad. Her eyes flickered open for half a second. One of them locked onto me, sharp, aware, even through the haze of pain. Recognition. Human. Enemy. Her lips parted, mandibles shifting slightly. Don't, she rasped, voice dry and broken. Don't touch. Yeah, I said quietly, already sealing one of the wounds with biofoam. That's not how this works. Because I wasn't just a soldier. I was a medic, and I only had one rule. Help whoever is dying in front of you. Continued. Possible survivors from the crash. Confirm status. My eyes dropped to her again. Commander class. Crimson Fleet markings, even through the damage. The one we'd been tracking for months. The one responsible for half the casualties in this region. The one lying helpless under my hands. Her breathing hitched. One of her lower eyes opened again, barely a slit, but enough. It fixed on me with that same cold awareness, even now. Even bleeding out, she understood exactly what I was. Human. Enemy. Executioner. Her fingers twitched weakly, trying to push my hand away from her wound. There was no strength behind it, but the intent was clear. Don't, she whispered again, voice rough, almost inaudible under the wind. Let me die properly. I exhaled slowly through my nose. Of course, even now, she was thinking about honor. About dying on her own terms. About not being touched, saved, by someone like me. My grip tightened slightly as I injected stabilizers into what I hoped was close enough to the right anatomy. Yeah, I muttered under my breath. Not happening. Carter. The radio snapped again, sharper this time. Status. I looked up at the gray sky, jaw tightening. This was the moment. Protocol was clear. Report enemy contact. Secure the target. If possible, capture for interrogation. If not, well, she wasn't supposed to make it off this ridge alive anyway. That was the mission. That was the war. My thumb hovered over the transmit switch. For a split second, I imagined saying it. Asterisk target confirmed. Enemy commander located. Alive. Asterisk. They'd send a team. Armed. Efficient. No hesitation. She'd be restrained, dragged out of here. Maybe kept alive just long enough to be useful. Or maybe not. Either way, my part would be over. Simple. Clean. Correct. Behind me, metal creaked as part of the shuttle shifted in the wind. In front of me, the alien commander made a faint, strained sound, somewhere between a breath and a protest. Her hand brushed weakly against my wrist again, trying to push me away. Even dying, she didn't want my help. That should have made it easier. It didn't, because I'd seen this before. Different face, different battlefield, same look in the eyes, the refusal, the anger, the pride that said asterisk I'd rather die than owe you anything. Asterisk. And every time, it ended the same way. I pressed the transmit button. Negative contact, I said. The words came out smooth. Too smooth. No hesitation. No crack in my voice. Repeat, my squad leader replied immediately. I didn't even blink. Negative contact. Getting interference from debris. Probably false readings from the crash. Silence. A long, heavy silence. I could almost picture them on the other end, checking scans, cross-referencing data, deciding whether I was wrong, or worse, unreliable. Then, copy that, he said finally. Hold position. Sweep team rerouting to Sector 7. Stay sharp. The line went dead. Just like that, it was done. I stared at the comm unit in my hand for a second longer than necessary, as if expecting it to come back to life and call me out, to tell me to correct myself, to undo what I'd just done. It didn't. Slowly, I lowered my hand. And just like that, I had crossed a line I couldn't uncross. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding and looked down at her again. Her eyes were open now, all four of them. Not wide. She didn't have the strength for that, but focused, watching me, studying. You lied, she said, voice still weak, but clearer now. There was something in it I hadn't expected. Not confusion, not even anger, something closer to disbelief. Yeah, I replied quietly, already going back to work sealing another wound. Seems like it. Her gaze didn't leave my face. Why? Good question. I pressed a patch over the worst of the bleeding, watching as the biofoam expanded and hardened. Not perfect. Hell, not even close. But it would keep her alive if nothing else went wrong. Big if. Because you're dying, I said finally. And I can do something about it. That is, she paused, breath catching. One of her mandibles twitched slightly. Illogical. I huffed a quiet, humorless laugh. Yeah, been hearing that a lot lately. Her eyes narrowed, just a fraction. I am your enemy. I'm aware. I have killed your kind. My hand stilled for half a second. Images flashed uninvited. Faces, voices, names I didn't say out loud anymore. Then I forced myself to keep moving. Also aware, I said. Then why? Because I'm a medic. I cut in, sharper than I intended. Silence fell between us. The wind howled through the wreckage again, rattling loose panels, carrying the distant echo of something collapsing further down the ridge. She stared at me, searching for something in my face. A lie, a crack, a reason that made sense. She wasn't going to find one. After a moment, her gaze shifted slightly, down, toward her own hand, toward the ring. Her fingers curled weakly around it, as if to hide it from me. Too late. I'd already seen it. And now that I'd noticed it once, I couldn't stop thinking about it. That number. Why did it feel familiar? I pushed the thought aside for now. One problem at a time. You're losing too much blood, I said, more to ground myself than anything. Try not to move. I would prefer not to be touched at all. Yeah, I replied dryly, tightening the final seal. We've established that. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Just the sound of wind, metal, and two enemies breathing the same cold air. Then, quietly, she said, "You dishonor me." I looked at her. Really looked this time. Not as a target, not as a symbol of everything we were fighting against, but as a person lying on the edge of death. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I'm giving you a chance to decide what happens next. Her eyes flickered slightly at that. Confusion again, or something close to it. I leaned back a little, wiping my hands on what was left of a clean cloth. She was still alive. Barely, but alive. And that meant one thing. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. If you've watched this far, then this story is really interesting to you. Please confirm it by clicking like under this video. It doesn't cost you anything, but it will help me understand what story to publish for you next. Let's move on. She stayed conscious longer than I expected. Not fully. She drifted in and out, breath shallow, muscles tensing every time pain pulled her back to the surface. But her eyes kept finding me. Watching, measuring, waiting. I was checking the seal on her side when she spoke again. You are not a soldier. I didn't look up. Last time I checked, I was. No. Her voice was faint, but steady enough to carry meaning. Soldiers finish enemies. You preserve them. I almost smiled at that. Depends on the day. A pause. Then, quieter, your name. I hesitated. Stupid thing to hesitate over. Names didn't matter out here. Tags, ranks, call signs, that's what people used. Not names. Still, Ethan, I said finally. Ethan Carter. Her eyes narrowed slightly, like she was committing it to memory. Ethan, she repeated, the words sounding different in her voice. Sharper, more deliberate. I am. I know who you are. That got her attention. All four eyes fixed on me fully now. Do you? She asked. I sat back on my heels, studying her face. The chitin along her cheek caught the dim light, fractured reflections dancing across its surface. Even like this, wounded, barely holding on, there was something unmistakable about her. Command, authority, danger. Commander class, I said. Crimson Fleet insignia. You don't exactly hide it. That is not my name. No, I agreed. It's not. Silence stretched for a moment. Then she said it. Alia Varen. The name hit harder than I expected. Not because I didn't recognize it. Because I did. I just hadn't wanted to. For a second, everything around me, the wind, the wreckage, the cold, faded into the background. Alia Varen. I'd heard that name in briefings. In reports delivered with tight jaws and clipped voices. In the quiet, angry conversations between soldiers who had lost people they weren't ready to let go of. And in one place I couldn't forget. Halcyon Gate. My hand stopped moving. Yeah, I said slowly. That tracks. Her gaze sharpened. You know it. I know the name. And what does your kind say of it? There was no pride in her voice. No arrogance. Just a simple, direct question. I let out a breath through my nose. What do you think we say? That I am efficient, she replied without hesitation. That I do not waste resources. That I achieve objectives. I gave a short, humorless laugh. That's one way to put it. Her eyes narrowed. Then say it. For a moment, I didn't answer. I didn't want to, because saying it out loud would make it real in a way I couldn't take back. But she was still watching me, still waiting. So I said it. They say you wiped out an entire unit in under 12 minutes, I said quietly. Cut off every escape route. No survivors. A flicker of recognition crossed her face. Not guilt, not even satisfaction. Just confirmation. That was the objective, she said. My jaw tightened. Yeah, I muttered. Figured. I turned away slightly, reaching for another patch I didn't really need. Just something to do with my hands. Because now the images were coming whether I wanted them or not. Halcyon Gate. Collapsed buildings. Smoke so thick it turned the sky black. The sound of comms going silent one by one. Marcus laughing the night before, trying to teach me some stupid card trick. Yuki arguing about food like it was a matter of life and death. Rodriguez promising he'd introduce me to his sister when we got back. Gone. All of them. 12 minutes. I didn't realize my hand had drifted to my sidearm until my fingers were already brushing the grip. Alia noticed. Of course she did. All four of her eyes tracked the movement instantly. She didn't flinch. Didn't try to move. Didn't even breathe differently. She just watched me. Waiting. Accepting. Like she'd already made peace with whatever happened next. That was your unit, she said. Not a question. A statement. I didn't answer. Didn't need to. She saw it in my face. In my hand. In the way everything in me had gone still. For a long moment, neither of us moved. The wind howled through the wreckage again. Louder this time. Like the world itself was trying to drown out what was happening between us. I could end it. Right now. One movement. One decision. Clean. Simple. Deserved. My grip tightened slightly on the weapon. Alia's gaze didn't waver. No fear. No pleading. Just that same steady, unblinking acceptance. I would prefer, she said quietly, that you do it quickly. Something in my chest twisted at that. Not sympathy. Not forgiveness. Something else. Something worse. Because she wasn't asking for mercy. She was asking for efficiency. For the same thing she had given my friends. I stared at her. At the alien commander who had destroyed everything I'd had on that battlefield. At the enemy I had spent hours saving. At the person who had just told me exactly who she was. And slowly, I let go of the weapon. Her eyes flickered, just slightly. Not relief. Surprise. Maybe even confusion. I forced my hand away from the holster and leaned back again, exhaling sharply. I didn't spend half the night keeping you alive just to shoot you now, I said. Silence. Heavy. Thick. Almost suffocating. Then what do you intend? She asked. That was the question, wasn't it? I looked at her. Really looked. Not as a target. Not as a symbol. Just as someone lying in front of me, alive because I had chosen it. And I realized something. If I walked away now, she'd die anyway. If I called it in as she'd wish she had. Either way, I'd still be the one deciding what happened to her. So I made another choice. A worse one. There's a transit tunnel about 1 kilometer north of here, I said slowly. Old infrastructure. Probably half collapsed, but it'll give cover from scans. Her upper eyes narrowed slightly. You would relocate me. Yeah. Why? I let out a quiet breath. Because if you stay here, you're dead. That would be the correct outcome. Maybe, I said. Not today. She studied me for a long moment. You are either very foolish, she said slowly, or very dangerous. I gave a small shrug. Probably both. Another pause. Then, you would help me escape. Not disbelief. Not accusation. Just recognition. I met her gaze. Looks that way. For the first time since I'd found her, something shifted in her expression. Not hostility. Not exactly. Something more uncertain. You understand, she said quietly, that when I am healed, we will be enemies again. I almost smiled at that. Yeah, I said. I figured. She held my gaze for a second longer. Then, slowly, she extended her hand. For a second, I thought I imagined it. Her hand. No, not her primary one. The stronger, armored limb, but one of the smaller secondary arms she had kept folded close to her torso since the beginning. It extended slowly, almost hesitantly, toward me. I didn't move, didn't reach back, because I knew enough about the Velthari to understand what I was looking at. This wasn't normal. Physical contact between non-bonded individuals in their culture was rare. With enemies? Practically unheard of. It wasn't just discomfort, it was taboo. A violation of something deeper than protocol. And yet, she was offering it. Not quite trust, but something close enough to make the air feel heavier between us. You will assist me, Alya said, her voice quieter now, stripped of that sharp command edge. And I will accept. I raised an eyebrow slightly. That's your way of saying thank you? Her mandibles twitched faintly. It is my way of saying I will not resist. Comforting. Still, after a brief hesitation, I reached out and took her hand. Her skin was cool, smooth, but not soft, more like polished stone than anything organic. There was strength there too, even now, even injured. It was a strange contrast to how fragile she looked moments ago. She stiffened the second our hands made contact. Not pulling away, but definitely not comfortable. Yeah, definitely not normal for her. Easy, I said quietly, shifting closer and bracing her weight against me. We're just standing up, not signing a treaty. I do not understand that reference. Didn't think you would. She tried to push herself up on her own. Bad idea. The moment she put weight on her side, her entire body tensed, a sharp intake of breath cutting through the air. Her grip tightened around my hand, claws pressing just enough to remind me they were there. I adjusted quickly, sliding an arm around her to support her properly. Careful, I muttered. You rip those seals, and all my work goes to hell. I am aware of my condition, she replied through clenched mandibles. Could have fooled me. She didn't answer that. We stayed like that for a second, her leaning into me holding her steady, both of us very aware of how wrong this situation was supposed to be. Then, slowly, we started moving. Each step was careful, me guiding, her resisting just enough to remind both of us that she wasn't used to relying on anyone, especially not someone like me. The wreckage faded behind us as we moved down the ridge. Wind howled across the broken terrain, carrying dust and the distant echoes of shifting metal. The sky above was still that same dull gray, like the planet itself hadn't decided whether it was worth saving. Your people, she said after a while, her voice steadier now despite the strain, they would execute you for this. Probably. You speak of it as if it does not concern you. It does, I said. Just not enough. She was quiet for a moment, processing that. You are either lying, she said finally, or your species has a fundamentally flawed understanding of self-preservation. I huffed a quiet laugh. Yeah, we've been told that before. We walked in silence for a while after that. Well, not silence. Her breathing, the crunch of debris underfoot, the distant rumble of something collapsing far off. It all blended together into this strange, fragile rhythm that felt nothing like a battlefield. More like something in between. Halfway down the ridge, she slowed. Not because of the wounds this time. Something else. Her gaze dropped briefly to her hand, to the ring. I noticed. Of course I did. Still thinking about that? I asked. Her fingers curled slightly, instinctively trying to shield it from view again. It is not relevant, she said. Sure doesn't look that way. Silence. Then, it is not mine, she added, almost reluctantly. I raised an eyebrow. No. We kept moving. Then why are you wearing it? Another pause. Longer this time. I took it, she said finally. From who? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she adjusted her grip slightly, shifting more of her weight onto me as we navigated a narrow stretch of broken terrain. Her movements were controlled, precise. Even injured, she was still thinking ahead, still calculating. Then, from a soldier, she said. I waited. After a battle, she continued. He should have died. Something about the way she said that made my chest tighten. Should have? I asked. Yes. We reached the edge of a collapsed structure, where the ground dipped toward the old transit tunnels I had mentioned earlier. I slowed us down, helping her step carefully over a cracked support beam. And he didn't. I pressed. No. Lucky guy. Her grip tightened slightly again. Not luck, she said. Intervention. That word hit differently. Intervention. I glanced at her. Someone helped him. Yes. Human. She didn't answer. But she didn't need to. The silence said enough. Something clicked in the back of my mind. Not fully, not clearly, but enough to make that familiar feeling from earlier, when I first saw the ring, flare up again. Like I was missing something obvious. You remember him? I asked. She was quiet for a long moment. Yes, she said finally. Very clearly. Why? This time, when she looked at me, something had changed. Not just in her expression, in the way she was looking. Not at me as an enemy, not even as a medic, but as something she hadn't quite figured out yet. Because, she said slowly, he made a choice that should not have been possible. I frowned slightly. What kind of choice? Her gaze dropped briefly, back to the ring, then back to me. The same one you just made. That hit harder than I expected. We reached the entrance to the transit tunnel shortly after. A jagged opening in the rock and debris, half collapsed but still passable. Darkness stretched inside, swallowing what little light the outside world offered. I shifted my grip on her, preparing to move us inside. But before we stepped into the shadows, she spoke again. This changes nothing, she said, her voice firm again, almost like she was reminding herself. When I am healed, we return to what we were. Enemies, I said. Yes. I nodded slightly. Yeah, I replied. I know, but for some reason, it didn't feel as certain as it should have. Not anymore. We stepped into the darkness together, and the war felt a little further away. The tunnel smelled like rust, damp stone, and something long forgotten. Old infrastructure. Pre-war, probably. Back when this place still pretended to be a functioning world instead of a battlefield. Faint strips of emergency lighting flickered along the walls, barely enough to see by, casting everything in a sick, uneven glow. I guided Alia deeper inside until the outside wind was just a distant echo. This should do, I said, lowering her carefully against a slanted section of wall. Less exposure, harder to scan. She didn't argue. That alone told me how bad she still was. I knelt beside her, already checking the seals again. One had partially loosened during the walk. Not catastrophic, but close enough to make my jaw tighten. Hold still, I muttered, reapplying pressure. I am holding still. You're bleeding through. I am aware. Yeah? Because I'm the one fixing it. Her mandibles twitched faintly at that, but she didn't push back. Progress, I guess. For a while, we stayed like that. Me working, her watching. Not speaking, just existing in the same space in a way that would have gotten both of us killed a week ago. Maybe still would. I finished reinforcing the patch and leaned back slightly, exhaling. Better, I said. Not good, but better. She studied me for a moment. You persist, she said. That's kind of the job. No, she replied quietly. Not the treatment. The choice. I didn't answer that. Didn't really have one. Instead, my eyes drifted, again, to the ring. Still there. Still scratched. Still familiar in a way that was starting to bother me more than the situation itself. You never told me his name, I said. Her gaze shifted instantly. Whose? The soldier, I replied. The one you took the ring from. Silence. Longer this time. He did not give it, she said finally. Okay, I corrected. The one you got it from. Another pause. You treated him, she said. Not a question. A statement. Something in my chest tightened. Yeah, I said slowly. I've treated a lot of people. Not like this one. The way she said it, too precise, too certain, made me look at her properly. What makes you say that? Her eyes held mine. Because he lived. That wasn't an answer, but it was enough. I leaned back slightly, resting my hands on my knees as I searched my memory. Prisoners. Field recoveries. Emergency transfers. Faces blurred together after a while, especially the enemy ones. You weren't supposed to remember them, not individually. It made things complicated. Still, there was one, I admitted. Young, not fully armored. Took a round to the abdomen. Should have been dead before he even hit the ground. Her breathing changed, just slightly. He wasn't, I continued. Fought like hell to stay conscious. Didn't refuse treatment either, which was unusual. That is not the word, she said quietly. No, I agreed. It's not. I rubbed the back of my neck, thinking. He didn't talk much, I added. Didn't give a name. Just watched everything. Like he was trying to understand it instead of hate it. Alya was very still now. Too still. He had a scar, I said slowly. Across the side of his face. Like something tore through it when he was a kid. Silence. Deep. Heavy. Then, Vel, she said. The name was almost a breath. My brother. Everything in me went still. What? I stared at her. You're serious? Yes. Her eyes didn't waver. That was him, she said. Vel Varen. My blood. My air. I let out a slow breath, trying to process that. Out of everything. Asterisk everything asterisk. This was the connection? That's one hell of a coincidence, I muttered. It is not coincidence, she said. No. No. She shifted slightly, wincing but ignoring it. It is pattern, she continued. Cause and effect. You made a choice then. You make the same choice now. I shook my head. I didn't know who he was. That is why it matters. I frowned slightly. What? Her gaze locked onto mine again. You saved him, she said. Not because of rank. Not because of value. Not because of strategy. Her voice dropped slightly. You saved him because he was dying. The words hung between us. Simple. Obvious. And somehow heavier than anything she'd said so far. That's the job, I said, a little more defensively than I meant to. No, she replied. It is your nature. I looked away for a second. Didn't like how that sounded. Didn't like how close it hit. You're giving me too much credit, I muttered. I am giving you accuracy. Silence settled again, but it wasn't the same kind of silence as before. Something had shifted. Not dramatically. Not enough to erase everything that stood between us. But enough. Enough that when she looked at me now, it wasn't just as an enemy. And when I looked at her, I didn't just see Halcyon Gate anymore. Didn't just see the commander who had wiped out my unit. I saw the sister of a soldier who had refused to die. A soldier who had trusted me. A soldier I had saved without knowing why it would matter later. That's why you didn't fight me, I said slowly. Back there, when I started treating you. I did fight you. You didn't mean it. Her mandibles twitched slightly. No, she admitted. I exhaled through my nose. Yeah, I said quietly. That makes sense now. She watched me for a moment. Then, something unexpected happened. Slowly, carefully, she unfolded both of her secondary arms. Fully. Not defensive. Not aggressive. Open. I blinked, caught off guard. That means something, doesn't it? I asked. Yes. What? She held my gaze. It means, she said, I will not attempt to kill you again. I let out a short breath. Good to know. This does not make us allies. I figured. Another pause. But then she added, it means I acknowledge the debt. I tilted my head slightly. Because of your brother? Yes. And because I saved you? Yes. I nodded once. Fair enough. She studied me for a moment longer. Then, more quietly, my full name, she said, is Alya Varen Solace. I raised an eyebrow. Solace. It is an honor title, she explained, given by my soldiers. What does it mean? She hesitated. Then, one who brings victory and ends suffering. I couldn't help it. A small, tired smile slipped through. Funny, I said. In my language, solace means comfort. Relief. Her eyes narrowed slightly. That is not the same. No, I agreed. But it's close enough to be interesting. She considered that. Then, for the first time since I met her, she made a sound. A short, unfamiliar click that wasn't irritation. Wasn't warning. Something lighter. Humans, she said. You redefine everything. Yeah, I replied. We do that. And for a moment, in that broken tunnel, in the middle of a war neither of us had started, we weren't just enemies anymore. We were something else. Something neither of us had a word for yet. It happened on the 6th day. Not the 5th, not the 7th. The 6th. I remember that because by then, something dangerous had already started to feel normal. Alya sitting across from me in the dim tunnel light. Her posture still rigid but no longer defensive. me rechecking her bandages without expecting a blade at my throat. The silence between us no longer filled with tension, but with something quieter, something harder to define. That was the real problem, not the war, not the fact that she had killed my unit, not even the fact that I had hidden her from my own people. It was that I had started to get used to her, and she had started to get used to me, which made what happened next inevitable. I woke up before the sound fully registered. A shift in the air, a vibration through the tunnel floor. Not loud, not obvious, but wrong. I sat up instantly, every instinct snapping into place. Movement outside. Multiple. Coordinated. Belfry. Contact. I whispered, already reaching for my sidearm. Alia was awake before I finished the word. Of course she was. Her body tensed, all four eyes sharpening in the dim light, her posture shifting in a way I hadn't seen since the ridge. Commander, not patient. They are mine, she said. No confusion, no hesitation. Recognition. How many? I asked. She listened for half a second, head tilting slightly. 5, she replied. Hunting formation. Great. 5 healthy Velthari soldiers versus 1 half-recovered commander and a medic who had no business being in a firefight. Yeah, I muttered. Those odds suck. They will not harm me. Good for you, I said. They'll definitely kill me. She didn't argue that, didn't try to soften it, just nodded once. Yes. Honest. Direct. As always. I moved toward the tunnel entrance, checking angles, distances, anything that might give me even a small advantage. There wasn't much. If they came in here, I'd last maybe 10 seconds. 15 if I got lucky. Then we don't let them find me, I said. Alia didn't respond immediately. When I glanced back at her, she wasn't looking at the entrance. She was looking at me, studying, calculating. And then, no, she said. I frowned. No. Before I could react, she pushed herself up, too fast, too hard. Her body trembled under the strain, but she forced it anyway, stepping between me and the deeper part of the tunnel. They will find this location, she continued. Your presence will be detected. Then we move, I said. There is no time. I gritted my teeth. Then we improvise. She shook her head. You will leave. I stared at her. What? There is a narrow passage, she said, already moving toward the far side of the tunnel wall. Collapsed section. It leads to an external ravine. You want me to run? I said. I want you to survive. I let out a short, sharp breath. Yeah, well, that wasn't part of the plan. There was no plan. Fair point. The distant sounds were getting clearer now. Clicks. Movement. Communication. They were close. Really close. I looked at her. You could just turn me in, I said. Clean. Simple. You get your honor back. I get a quick ending. She held my gaze. I could. Silence stretched between us. Heavy. Final. Then why aren't you? I asked. Her eyes flickered, just slightly. Then, quietly. Because you saved Vel. That hit first. Then. And you saved me. That hit harder. The tunnel felt smaller all of a sudden. Like there wasn't enough air for both of us. This doesn't balance anything, I said. It does, she replied. No, it doesn't, I snapped. That's not how this works. It is how it works for me. The sounds were right outside now. Seconds. We had seconds. They'll know, I said. The wounds, the treatment, they'll know you didn't do this alone. Then I will tell them I did. That's a terrible lie. It is sufficient. I shook my head. This is suicide. She stepped closer. Close enough that I could feel the faint coolness of her breath again. I am Crimson Fleet, she said. I understand sacrifice. Yeah. I replied quietly. And what about choice? She paused, just for a fraction of a second. Then, this is my choice. The ring caught the dim light as her hand moved, subtle, almost unconscious. I noticed. Of course I did. Everything connected in that moment. Her brother, the ring, the choice, all of it. You're doing the same thing he did, I said. Her gaze sharpened. Yes. That was it. That was the answer. The same impossible choice. Given. Returned. Completed. Go, she said, her voice dropping lower. Urgent now. Final. I hesitated. Stupid. Dangerous. But I did it anyway. Hey, I said. She looked at me. When this war ends, I continued, I'm going to find you. Something shifted in her expression. Not disbelief. Not rejection. Something else. Impossible, she said. Yeah, I replied. That's kind of the theme here. A faint sound, closer now, right at the entrance. No more time. I moved, fast, toward the narrow passage she had indicated. Just before I disappeared into the darkness, I looked back one last time. She was already standing straight, composed. Commander again. Not the wounded soldier I had carried. Not the person I had spoken to in the dark. Something flickered in her eyes as they met mine. Brief. Gone just as fast. Ethan, she said. My name. Not my rank. Not my role. My name. Live, she added. Then I was gone. The passage was exactly what she described. Tight, jagged, barely wide enough to squeeze through. I moved blind, scraping against stone, ignoring the pain, focusing only on getting out. Behind me, voices. Sharp. Alien. Her voice among them. Calm. Controlled. Lying. For me, I didn't hear what she said. Didn't need to. Because they didn't follow. They believed her. Or at least, they didn't question her enough to check. I kept moving until the passage opened up into a narrow ravine. Cold air hit my face as I stumbled out into the early light. Alive. Somehow. I leaned against the rock wall, breathing hard, trying to process what had just happened. The ring. The choice. The balance. All of it. She could have ended it. Easily. Instead, she had let me go. And in doing that, she had changed everything. Again. I didn't see her again for 3 years. The war dragged on, grinding everything down. Cities, fleets, people. I did my job, kept my head low, and pretended Ardent Ridge never happened. But I never forgot the ring. Or the choice. Then came New Carthage. Peace talks. Neutral ground. Same tired faces pretending the war had been worth it. I was assigned to the medical wing, patching up diplomats instead of soldiers. Easier. Cleaner. Until I saw her. Across the chamber. Alya Varen. Standing tall, healed, every inch the commander again. Our eyes met. Hers sharp, unreadable. Mine probably not. We didn't speak for days. Then, one evening, I found a small object waiting in my quarters. The ring. Cleaned. Restored. Given back. I found her on an observation platform overlooking the sea. You kept it, I said. For 3 years, she replied. Silence settled between us. This still makes us enemies, she added. Yeah, I said. It does. Another pause. But not just that, I continued. She looked at me. Not as a target. Not as a stranger. Something else. What are we then, she asked. I thought about it. About Ardent Ridge. About the tunnel. About the choices we made. 2 people, I said quietly, who chose something different. Her mandibles shifted, almost a smile. Salvathon, she said. I didn't know the word, but I understood it. And for the first time since the war began, I didn't see an enemy. I saw her. Thank you for listening to this story to the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Write in the comments what moment in this story impressed you the most. And also check out the other videos that just appeared on your screen. See you in the next video.